Welcome to the All Access Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Joseph Bruen. This week, a very special guest, somebody who I've looked up to for so many years, since my childhood. He is a composer, a musician, a producer, and has laid out the soundtrack to millions of professional wrestling fans and beyond, myself included, the one, the only, Mr. Jim Johnston. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Appreciate this, and we're looking forward to this. The fans have also submitted a couple questions, some great stuff. A lot of people have looked up to you for so many years, and you've been a part of so many different generations in the wrestling business, and obviously you've done so much beyond the wrestling business, and we're here to kind of touch on all that today. So, rewinding back a little bit, basically your earliest memories of music. What are your first memories that you can remember?
I guess my grandmother singing when we would visit her in Pocahontas, Arkansas. She was, she actually, unbelievably enough, she got into Juilliard School of Music to study opera, but relative to the time when she grew up, it was, you don't just trot off, particularly when I think she had just gotten married to my grandfather, and you don't just trot off to New York City from Pocahontas, Arkansas, and say, I want to study opera. So she ended up playing organ and singing in her church there for the rest of her life.
Wow.
So, and she passed some of that on to my dad. My mom liked music, but wasn't particularly musical.
Sure.
And I can't say my dad was okay, but he wasn't breaking any musical barriers.
Right. Now, did you play instruments throughout?
And he would mess around on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you play any instruments throughout school, or did it come at a later time for you?
Yeah. My parents tried to give me piano lessons when I was a little kid, and that worked out remarkably poorly. In that after very few lessons, I just couldn't do it. And I finally convinced my mom. I said, look, this lady's driving me nuts. And, she's making me learn all these stupid songs that mean nothing to me. And plus she's just weird. And finally, my mother let me quit. And then like 3 weeks later, we read in the local paper, she had set her house on fire and hung herself in the backyard overlooking the fire.
Oh my gosh.
So, oh my gosh is right. Yeah, that was a weird one. So
my goodness.
So I certainly was not meant to be taking lessons with her.
Right. Yes. Oh man.
So I ended up later in school. You had to play an instrument at that time, or at least they started you off, and I played trumpet. So that was good. I never play anymore, but it gave me a foundation, a weak foundation of understanding theory and being able to look at a score and say, oh, that's a G note. So, but I still am an ear musician. So I learned to play instruments as I needed to.
Right.
Or as I was inspired to. So first, my dad rented me a guitar, an acoustic guitar, and I started learning all the Beatles songs, and then it finally showed enough interest that I got a really horrible electric guitar for Christmas. It was just so bad you could barely press the strings down. The neck was so warped.
Right.
But I, just kept coming up. And then later when I started recording, when I needed something, a flute, it was easier for me just to get a flute and learn to play the part.
Sure.
Because I didn't know anyone who played flute. And as is sort of well documented, I'm so uncomfortable around other people being in the studio with me, or I didn't have a studio then, uh, being in front of a tape deck with me, that uh, it was just easier to do it myself.
Hmm. And growing up, what other hobby did you have? Any other hobbies outside of music?
I did a lot of sports in school. Um, have always was brought up fishing by my dad. Um, yeah, I've always liked building things. Still do. I've built a lot of my studio here. So yeah,
And you were part of the music industry prior to the wrestling world. Why don't you
yeah.
tell us a little about your early days there and how you got your foot in the door?
Um, After college, I fell into the usual trap of I'll work as a carpenter during the day and work on my music at night, and that's just a for anyone listening. Please hear my words. That will not work because by the end of the day, you're so tired and you just want to go out and have a beer with your friends. Uh, it, it just doesn't. You don't have anything left. Um,
Right.
so one day I was in the middle of putting on a small edition for a lady, and I had this epiphanal moment where I just said, I can't do this anymore. Tomorrow morning I'm getting up. I'm a composer, and that was the most absurd thing to say because I had a guitar. I had no recording equipment. I had no prospects of work of anyone I knew in the industry. Um, but I, I just found a way to start concentrating on it. And when you really throw yourself at something, not surprisingly, you get better at it.
Right.
So it's whatever you want to do in life. Just spend 90% of your time doing that, and you won't believe what happens.
Now, you said off air that you didn't really grow up a wrestling fan. You're not a fan of wrestling in general. How
Not
did
really.
you go about getting your foot in the door in the WWF back in 1985? And did you know what to expect?
Oh my God. No. Um, I was on a path more towards, I guess, film scoring. I was
Okay.
doing quite a bit of work at that time for the newer cable things, which at that time were MTV, um Showtime, HBO was sort of firing up, and they were king of the hill. Um, I love sushi. So there was one sushi bar in our town, and I would go there for dinner a lot. And it only had 4 or 6 seats. I mean, it was tiny, tiny, just a little corner in a Japanese restaurant where 99% of the people are having cooked food. So it was like going to a local bar where you see the same people all the time, and kind of hi to this guy who came in a lot. And he comes in one night and says, "Hey, didn't you say you write music?" And I said, "Yeah." Sort of half-ass line, by the way, at that point. Is
Yeah.
like, yes, I do. I don't do it for anybody
Right.
outside. Um, it was things were a little better than that, but not a lot. And he said, my boss asked me to put together a video for a cable TV conference, and I can do the video part, but I have no clue how to do music. Do you want to put some music to it? And I said, sure, no problem. No idea what he was talking about. So it turns out he's Vince's art director at the time. And that sounds like a really cool position. This is Vince had just bought the company from his dad. So they're like 5 employees,
Right.
and one of them is his wife. They're renting a floor in a little commercial building that's right next to the town dump. Um, so I meet there and play the tape, and loves it, love it, and I and he just said, what else do you do? So I told him all the stuff I did, and he goes, "You want to do some more stuff?" I said, "Sure." I mean,
Wow.
it's I don't know, Joseph. It's so strange with life. People go through all the motions of sending tapes out and trying to network and everything. And in my experience, most of real progress in life comes from happenstance or just hard work, and it produces an energy around you that leads to something, and very often leads to not really what you thought you were driving at.
Right. And you just mentioned that first project with the company, and obviously it would span into over 32 years
Yeah,
of music with the company. But do you remember going back your very first entrance theme that you produced?
I do not.
No.
Uh, the first part were mainly promos and show themes, and bumpers. Bumpers is a little piece of music to get you in and out of commercial.
Yeah.
Um, we'll be right back. Dun-dun-dun-dun, boom. Uh, really simple stuff. Uh, I don't. I just don't remember. I wish I did. I'd love to sort of recall what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what stands out to me is, obviously when it comes to creating themes, and I've always been such a big fan of entrance music, thanks to you over the years since I was a child. Um, the attributes, the likeness of the superstar, you would bring it to life by creating a theme specifically for them in most cases, rather than just taking a theme that's already there and slapping it on somebody. In most cases, you actually, made it special for them. So why don't you walk us through that process, and how did you get from A to B, and really do that for so many different superstars?
Well, at the risk of sounding flippant, and I'm not trying to, it's kind of a mystery of faith thing. I don't really know. I seem to have an ability to kind of get a sense of someone, of of what their deal is, of combined with what they want their deal to be, what they want to be perceived as. But I think uh, the most valuable gift God gave me in this area was the ability to see beyond what that person has in mind for themselves. Like, oh, I want to be this. I want to be this big kick-ass killer,
Yeah.
uh, and find something about them that is true, that is really them. And generally, I tried to write to that. Um, uh, because that's the truth, and the truth is much more powerful than anything else. And I think it's why all the current themes are abysmal. It's horrible because they don't have anything to do with the person. They might have a lot to do with what the person thinks they want to be or the character they want to play,
Yeah.
but it has nothing that lands where you really say, that's Ted's theme. It
Yeah.
feels like Ted when he comes out to that music.
Right.
I guess Undertaker is a really obvious example of that because um, when you approach writing a piece of music for him, there's kind of the obvious Undertaker guy, and then there's the more mystical, he's a dead guy, which attracts me much more.
Yeah.
And he's Mark is a big guy. It isn't like he's the classic wrestling world 5'6", but his stats mysteriously are 6'4". He's a genuine huge guy.
Yeah.
So the first blush, I think, for most people would be big, big. 50 guitars with 18 sets of drums, all recorded as loud as possible.
Yeah.
Um, and I kept trying to find something that worked, and then ended up what finally I keep playing stuff. Um, I keep playing stuff, Joseph, until something just feels true to me, like
Right.
that. Like, oh, that feels like Joseph. That I can't even explain why it feels like Joseph, but that feels like Joseph.
Yeah.
Um, and so I wrote this very gentle. It was really like a children. I mean, the exact opposite of what you would expect. It
Yeah.
was a children's theme, just a very gentle, almost a nursery rhyme, I guess.
And that funeral march,
I don't
you
know.
can't.
Can you hear this if I play?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So it was really high and like a children's. If I remember how to play it. And so once I had that, then you can take that theme and you can produce it a lot of different ways.
Right.
So then you can kind of take the obvious. He's an undertaker, church organ. So
Yeah.
the first version of it was an organ. And then I added a choir. And then I added some big guitars and some drum hits. And then of course I've always wanted to have an identifier, and that was never a conscious thing. It just seemed obvious. Is like these are themes, so you need something that right up front says whose theme it is. You can't just have a music coincidentally start to play.
Sure.
And so the death bell.
Yeah. And arguably, it's, probably the most iconic theme that you created, other than maybe Stone Cold, obviously, with the glass breaking.
Yeah.
But Undertaker, I mean, everybody knows it. It's just one of those things, that first note with the gong. And, it's like you said, there's been so many iterations of it. Obviously, the Ministry of Darkness, and you'd kind of, get the other instruments and the choir involved, which was amazing. But I feel like Undertaker had so many different versions of his theme over the years, and they were all so very good.
But that's just a testament to Mark, who's, and the length of his career and the fact that he stayed healthy enough to continue it that long is an incredible testament to him and an unbelievably tough body.
Yeah. And one of the most underrated themes, I'm not sure if you even are aware, that a lot of the fans of entrance music speak about, is the Unholy Alliance, which was The Undertaker and The Big Show. And it didn't last very long because they weren't together very long as a team. So maybe you just played it a few times, but that theme song that you created is one of the most underrated, one of the most popular entrance musics of all time, and it's one that everybody talks about still to this day.
I'm aware of that. I have a different, most underrated theme. The one that's so disappointing to me that it didn't work out, and I guess it didn't work out because the character didn't resonate or didn't work out, or who knows. I got to the point you never know what's going to work out, because it could be that Vince didn't like the color of his pants, so he got fired. I mean, it can be. I mean, my God, Steve was the ringmaster for a long time.
Yeah.
is Aiden English.
Oh,
I
yes.
really wanted that to work out because I thought, now that is a good gimmick. A guy who sings opera on the way in, and I pictured what never happened is that he's standing over some guy that he's defeated, and he gives his tagline of "I'm Aiden English superstar, the greatest thing that you'll ever see," and that could be played really dark, or that could be played really humorously, sarcastically,
Yeah.
whichever way you want. Um, but almost all of pro wrestling is basically a guy saying, I'm the strongest, I'm the best, I'm the most handsome, I have the most girls, I'm the richest, I'm just the best, you know?
Yeah.
So it's how do you say that 22,000 ways?
Right.
That whole gimmick felt really different to me.
Mm.
You know, it's in a strange way, it's saying it more directly. I'm Aiden English superstar, the greatest thing that you'll ever see. But it just had this simple profoundness and beauty because, frankly, I loved the little opera I wrote for it. Um, and I'm so bummed that that didn't take,
Yeah.
which is the other side of I'm so appreciative for all the things that did take, but
Sure.
there are occasionally things um, that you feel really good about, or writing a theme that I really am proud of, that I really like, and the character blows up,
Mm.
either their own making, or it just turns out there was too much promise there and that there wasn't much reality there. But in that world, you can't, it's very difficult to reuse themes
Yeah.
unless there's some sort of connection, like they wrestled together for a while, or they were in a big tag team together for a while. And now it was both their themes, and now this guy, the original guy, went away, but this guy continues on. Uh, but you can't have a guy come on for 3 months, kind of establish him, it blows up, and then say, like, oh, well, this is Dave's theme now.
Right.
Because it makes Dave look like a ham and egger, like, he didn't deserve his own theme. And
Sure.
so,
Now there are some instances over the years where there was a shared theme with, I know Too Much, which was Scott Taylor and Brian Christopher. They would come out to a theme kind of with a motorcycle, and then eventually a couple years later, it was used for Kama, the Supreme Fighting Machine. The very
stuff that I don't even know. This
yeah
is where not being a wrestling fan
right
really, really hits home. Is you will be talking about this storyline. It's like, I don't know any of this. I don't
yeah
remember any of it. I don't remember these people.
yeah. You said in the creation process, obviously you're getting a sense of the superstar, and that helps you create the finished product. Now, when you're getting a sense of the superstar, is that a combination of sitting down with them and having a conversation, as well as watching footage,
Virtually
or are
never.
you okay?
Virtually never. And whenever I could avoid it, I avoided it.
Okay.
Um, it's really not helpful because the vast majority of the wrestlers amazingly don't really get it, in the sense that their suggestions are always what they listen to in the car.
Hmm.
You know, like something Metallica, like Metallica, this Metallica song, something just like that. Um, and there's nothing more kind of self-defeating, and it almost never works out that you base a theme on a commercial song. And I always thought it was just a horrible idea when guys got big enough that they could convince Vince to let them use a commercial track,
Right.
because this is music, this is pure emotion. And if suddenly your entrance theme is a theme where, you know, it was playing the first night a guy slept with his girl. His association is sleeping with his girlfriend, not with you. And when you come out, you want people to only be thinking of you. That is the only thing in the universe you want them to be feeling is you.
Right.
And I think that happens again, like in a case like Undertaker or Stone Cold. People aren't thinking about other songs or other experiences. They're thinking about, uh, you know, what is up Austin's sleeve tonight, and just taking in the moment and the excitement of it. But if your part of your mind is, and more importantly, your heart is kind of being over here, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that song.
Right. Right.
That's just dumb, I think.
So you kind of answered it there, but that was one of my questions was, the Hardy Boys, Hardcore Holly, they had commercialized music that you would hear literally on commercials and that sort of thing. But other than those two, it was pretty much all of your music. So was that a Vince decision at the end of the day that they're going to come out to that?
Oh, absolutely. Those
Okay.
decisions I had nothing to do with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then 1985 rolls around. You're brand new to the company. Of course, the wrestling album. Cyndi Lauper's involved in that. You appear on the cover of the album. Actually, you're in there, and it's kind of like a Where's Waldo, and you got to really look for you, and you're on there. So, what are your earliest?
Wait, pause there. You're right. I'm on there, but this is trivia. I'm on there twice.
Twice.
Because the album cover, it's a huge landscape type photo. It was two photos done over 2 days.
Okay.
So one panel's here, one panel's here, and it was very cleverly done by Brian Penry, who the art was the same art director in the sushi bar. And it comes off perfectly, except that the giveaway is I am in both sides.
Oh, wow, I never knew that.
Yeah. In one of the sides, I'm really hard to find, but I'm in there. Yeah.
That's tremendous. Now, what are your memories of that earliest album for you with WWF? How much involvement did you have in that?
The first one, almost none, I think.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if I had anything to do with that. I think none. But the second one a lot, because I wrote a lot of the material on it.
And that would have been Pile Driver?
Pile Driver, and there was a bunch of stuff on there. So,
and WrestleMania, the album, would also come out in 1993. Simon Cowell, the producer on that one. Did you have any involvement?
Nothing to do. I didn't even know about it. I mean, that's how little I had to do with that one.
Okay.
Someone said, "Hey, did you see this album?" I said, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, my first memories of
that it was Simon.
What's that?
Pretty strange that it was Simon. I mean, because
yeah,
he goes on to the voice show thing, and how in the world was he part of that?
Right. How did it come together? And that was obviously his only involvement ever in wrestling. So pretty interesting.
But his personality, I guess we shouldn't be surprised that it's in that same carny kind of atmosphere.
Right. And some of those cassette tapes that would come out with the fan club, would have snippets of the theme songs. And that's how I was first introduced to, finally having a chance to listen to the entrance music. And, for me, it was always all about the entrance as a kid, playing with the wrestling figures, we'll do the match, but it's about the entrance. You have to have the music. So that was the first opportunity for me to play music. Now, granted, they were 20-second clips per song. So really the first time that we got full entrance themes, I would say was 1995 with Full Metal, the album. That was the first time where it wasn't a mix of music, being sung by the superstars and maybe a couple entrance themes. It was all entrance music. And any memories that you could, share on Full Metal, the album?
I'm not good at remembering what's on each album,
Yeah.
but uh, there was considerable fan pressure to release the music. Is like, what's the deal? Everybody, that's the nature of music. Everyone releases the music.
Yeah.
You know, they put out albums, they put out cassettes, CDs. Um, Vince, I guess, couldn't get his head around that. I think he. I'm speculating, but it was always my impression that he perceived it as giving away intellectual property. That there was like somehow, if it was out there on a CD, it's completely different than it playing on television where it's in your control. And of course, kids can record stuff off TV and get at least snippets of it clean. Um, so finally, it just sort of happened. It's like, well, let's release a CD
Yeah.
and see what happens. And then it ended up being incredibly successful. And um,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
weird.
go on to volume 2, 3, 4, 5, and eventually the 3-disc set, Anthology. Were you a part of that as well, I would assume?
Yes.
Yeah. So Anthology, specifically a couple fans have brought that up. Just wondering if you had any memories from that. That came out probably around 2002, 2003, 3 discs, first time you had done that. And just an array of music from 80s, 90s, and the Attitude Era.
What I remember from that in proposing the list and then getting feedback from the list, and so there were numerous opinions in terms of, do you truly make it an anthology retrospective? Like, here's the whole well, not the whole, nearly the whole show, but here sort of the greatest hits album,
Yeah.
per se. But a lot of the themes by that time had evolved. So which one do you put on? Do you put on Undertaker's first theme? His second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, which, and you can't have one guy with 7 themes on there. So it was tough in that way to make that decision, and we got some pushback, and I was pushing back on some of it, and but again, that's another executive decision that I could make suggestions and plead my case, but at the end of the day, Vince calls the shots on stuff like that.
Yeah. And another fan question that we have, one of the superstars during the Attitude Era was Test. I'm sure you remember Test. He was there for several years, and he was one of the superstars that would have little tweaks. So there would be almost weekly, it seemed like, a different version of the Test entrance music. It was a little bit different each time. Do you remember that time period and why it would have changed so many times? Because it didn't happen with a lot of guys, but it happened with Test often.
I don't remember. I do remember changing it a lot or adding something, and I don't know. A lot of times that was Vince or executive producer Kevin Dunn saying, "Hey, can we pump this up, or can you turn up the guitars, or some suggestion." Or a lot of times it was me just saying, "Hey, here's an updated mix that I think is better," and I don't know, 99 times out of 100, they would just take it and play it.
Right.
So I've really forgotten, was that my prerogative or was that a directive? Because I don't, my recollection is, and maybe you probably do know better than me, did it change dramatically, or were they really little tweaks, sort of?
They seemed to be little tweaks for the most part. It was kind of generally the same theme, but maybe an instrument was a little more impactful than the previous version.
I think it was, I was just continually trying to pump it up.
Yeah.
One thing when I write themes, I tend to, I write them on either generally on an acoustic guitar or piano, because it helps me hear or helps me imagine a finished production more. When you play electric guitar, it tends to be focused just on the groove that I come up with on the electric guitar, and it's sort of small. With piano, you can hear, or I can hear a lot more stuff. So, point being, when I write stuff, a lot of times it's very subdued. Of, you would never think it was going to be a wrestling theme, like the Undertaker thing I just played you.
Yeah.
That it's a dark, introspective. I'm trying. What's an example? So, hold on. So. You got your rules and your religion, all designed to keep you safe. And the rules start getting broken. You da 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 da. So that's how I wrote that song.
Wow.
Now, that's not the entrance version, obviously.
Sure.
So, but I think that's another reason that I would attribute to why they fit the person more. It is, and maybe the best way to explain that is all the stuff I hear now, which, sorry, I think is horrible. It's noise. It's like it's designed from the other side. Is how big can we make this? How many sound effects? How many explosions? How many, power chords can I put in this thing? And then it feels like the last part is mixing it all together to kind of make it some sort of cohesive thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am 100% the other way, of almost writing a film song or a folk song about someone, about what their character feels, and then take that and say, this is the grist for my mill of making a theme. And
Right.
so how should I produce that? Okay, here's the song. Okay, so it's, it's obviously a guitar song. Yeah, I just thought of another one.
Sure.
Okay, sorry, I should probably keep this guitar close, knowing
Oh, that's okay.
if I can remember how to play it. Sorry. So I also keep working. I want it to be as simple as possible. Simple is good. Too much crap just confuses the issue, confuses the emotions. I mean, how it's just a simple, pretty little guitar figure.
Yeah.
And then I keep playing that until some sort of lyric thing comes.
Yeah.
And so I remember playing that, and then I was starting. I started singing "Bad Dreams," and "Bad Dreams" didn't feel right, but the dream part felt right. And then I thought wrestling and broken dreams, and
Right.
so it's just like, in my mind, believe it or not, that's a logical progression, but probably not for most people.
Yeah, well, it's different, how people get there, and that's how you get there. And those two snippets that you just played, Randy Orton, obviously, and Drew McIntyre's earliest theme. The music that you produced, that first note, you hear it, you instantly know who it is. And I feel like, just like you said, the general consensus from the fans, from myself, it is not the same now. And sometimes, when those notes hit, you don't even know who's coming out. You're like, wait, who is this? Oh, okay. Even if there's a big return and they hit that music and everybody's supposed to get excited and it takes me a second, who is
No, but
coming out?
you have to see the person.
Right.
Oh, it's Ed.
Exactly. So when they do the Royal Rumble now with 30 entrants, half of them just blend together. I don't even know who's coming out until I see them. Whereas the Royal Rumbles, when you were around, you knew every single person coming out that first note.
Well, and I think that's an important thing for the business, which is completely missing now, and I don't understand how it happened really. Um, Having that kind of identity and those entrances, I think that was the show, because that was the storyline. I mean, when WWE, or when any pro wrestling thing is at its best, it's about the storylines, it's about the characters, and uh, the stories and the characters are in the entrance. One of the biggest problems that I saw, and other people not agreed with me, but shared the same opinion, um, was that when the lights come up in pro wrestling, that's kind of the worst part of the show, because there aren't, wrestling matches from one to the next are sort of the same, except for a few people who are really acrobatic and really can put on a show and say, holy crow. But the things you care about, if you really got down to what you really liked that match, why did you like that match? Was it
Yeah.
because of the moves? Oh, no, it's because I know these guys hate each other and I really wanted Austin to win and
Right.
kick his ass. Um, it's the emotion, it's the storyline, and uh, it also makes me feel horrible for today's wrestlers, who I just feel are trapped, because I'm sure there are a bunch of them who realize this is horrible. I mean, I'm it's why I think there are no rocks being created now. There are no Austins being created now. It's like it's a pack, and the stars are just a peg above the pack.
Yeah, it's true.
And I attribute that largely to the music is
Mm.
not doing its job. And I don't watch really, so, but I've heard people say a similar thing, to the storylines just aren't as good.
Yeah. Now, the involvement of Jimmy Hart for a while in WWF, he would create some of the themes in the
Yeah.
90s. Did you have a relationship with him at all? Did you collaborate at all, or was it just
We never,
him? Or
well, we, no, we not exactly collaborated. Uh, he and I think it was JJ McGuire,
it was, yes.
uh, his partner, but he worked later with another guy who I'm trying to remember his name. I can't remember his name. Um, I think Jimmy was more kind of the producer guy, and he had a JJ McGuire guy who did music. But Jimmy and I always got along great. He always treated me wonderfully kindly, and but we were also around each other very rarely, because he was on the road
Sure.
364 days a year. So, but he had written with JJ McGuire, or JJ had written uh, something, a wedding song for Elizabeth and Randy called Together.
Oh, yes.
Um, and they had done a recording with Randy and Elizabeth singing it.
Oh,
And it was kind of touching, but horrible. I mean, a really simple recording, and you can imagine, I think, Randy singing with you, and but it kind of worked.
Yeah.
Um, and it was a really simple, beautiful melody. Uh, then, for some reason, which I've long forgotten, they wanted to use it for something else, but they wanted a good recording of it. So I took the song, I added a whole section in the middle, uh, did a nicer recording of it, uh, got two people to sing a beautiful duet, and it's a great song. As a matter of fact, it's such a great song. It's really surprising that it hasn't been adopted as a like a perennial wedding song.
Right.
Um, but that's the only time, and there was no actual interaction. I mean, Jimmy and I never sat in the same room, and I said, like, here's what I'd like to do in the middle part.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that? Um, it was just dumped in my lap to do. That was one thing that's different about working with the outside world of music and working with Vince, and that really came up when I was doing the film scores for the films,
Right.
Knucklehead and Legendary, and um, in every other Hollywood scenario, the composer is absolutely in a 100% um, subservient relationship with the director.
Hmm.
The director tells, and that goes for the biggest names in the business.
Yeah.
It's what composers are. You take direction from the director. You give them ideas. What do you think about this?
Right.
Yeah, I don't really like it. So you come back and 2 days later with, what do you think about this? Okay, good, I like that. I was brought in because Vince on the first film heard the music and said, "This sucks," and he just dumped it in my lap, which is great because I love film mixes, film music. It's my favorite kind of music, actually. Um, Except that I was in this position where he was score the movies. I don't want to we're not screwing around
Yeah.
with what the director wants, because I knew that he could fire the director at any given second. Who
Sure.
knows? So probably don't cozy up too much. But needless to say, I'm sure, hated by all these directors because, uh, whether they understood that Vince had just said, "Do this." Uh, just do it. I don't care how you get it done. Just do it.
Yeah.
Um, but that was a little uncomfortable, and
Yeah.
in collaborating with alleged collaborating with people.
And luckily, you were able to be creative, like you said, because Vince still gave you that leeway. But in general, when you're doing television and film, obviously, like you said, it's more difficult because you have more people to answer to. But
Yeah.
did you enjoy doing that more so than the wrestling at the end of the day, or did you enjoy the wrestling more? Because you're a 13-time winner, the BMI Film and TV Award. I mean, you've done a lot beyond wrestling. But what did you enjoy more if you had to kind of choose a side?
I guess at the end of the day, my favorite music is orchestral film music. I really love doing that. It really gets me. But the truth is, and it sounds like such a, oh, well, isn't that a convenient answer? Uh, I love all music. I'm such a sap for music. I cry all the time listening to things. As a matter of fact, a lot of times writing themes, wrestling themes, uh, if I begin to get emotional and kind of tear up, I know I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that's important, I think, to realize for any artist is If you like something, there is no way you're going to be the only one in the world that likes that, that agrees with you. Now maybe it's not going to be 10 million people, but you have to trust that that's the only thing we really have to offer is what moves us, and then sharing it with people. So I rarely did a theme go out that somehow I didn't like. I mean,
Sure.
it happened, but it hurt when when I was really given more of a direction, like, we really want a hardcore kind of heavy metal leaning thing.
Yeah.
And so I did, so even though that is the vibe for wrestling, I did so little heavy metal music.
Hmm.
And maybe that's another problem now, is there's so much of that sort of really hardcore music,
Yeah.
because it allegedly that's wrestling music, and it's not wrestling music. It's really emotionless people screaming at you with guitars playing as loud as they possibly can.
Right.
Um, Heavy metal is not an emotional genre.
Hmm. Well, you mentioned earlier the Ringmaster. There
Yeah,
was a lot of piano in that theme, and that was actually a great theme song,
yeah,
prior
not
to Stone Cold.
yeah. For somebody else, it probably would have worked great.
Yeah, it really was. And that, you could tell that that's a lot of the type of style music that you like, and it's great. That was a great theme.
Yeah, it's strange that he must have just been. Well, I know he was losing his mind at the time. I mean, so much so that he was about to hang it up and say, like, okay, I guess this is really not going to work.
Mm.
And just to the point I made, that the only thing we have to share is ourselves, is really who we are and how we see the world. That's when Steve broke out, when he got pissed off and was at the end of his rope of, like, I guess I'm done, because Ringmaster. I'm not getting storylines. I'm not getting a push. This is not who I am. And he started to get more forward about pushing to try to get get who he was out of the bottle,
Yeah.
which he did. And that's when um, that was a really fun time with David Sahadi and Chris Chambers, three of us doing a lot of work together. Doing a lot of character development, and
Sure.
and those promos that those guys put together for Steve, that was a really powerful thing. I mean, it made his career.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we
But
mentioned oh, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, we mentioned the Undertaker, having so many different themes over the years, and how it just kind of grew from there. Another superstar was Triple H. That obviously started off with the Blue Blood theme, and would he, go into My Time with Chris Warren and the DX Band,
Yeah.
working with you, and then of course D-Generation X, and I remember Backlash 1999. There was an instrumental used for him. It was the only night they used it. So it was just a one and done. And at that time period, I think you were trying to figure out what's next for him, outside of DX. And eventually Motorhead would get involved, and some iconic themes from them as well. What are some of your memories working with Chris Warren and the DX Band, and then some of your memories with Motorhead?
Well, there was no DX Band, really. I mean, the DX Band was me.
You were the DX Band.
And I got some guys to play when we played the Boston Garden, which, being a stage fright guy, was a tough night for me. If you see the film, most of the time I'm facing backwards, but as there's no real effective backwards, it was just the lesser populated end of the room.
Right.
I think what saved me there was it was such a big audience, and you're so absurdly removed from them that it's not like playing to a coffee house room, which would just give me a heart attack to do that. Um, Chris was a great guy. I mean, he he didn't have a broad musical range, but he just loved that white rapper, white rock rapper thing, um, and he did it incredibly well. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously very inspired by who's the lead singer of Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
It's right in that ballpark. Um, and of course, many fans have written to me and say, like, what Rage Against the Machine song inspired DX? And I always have a disappointing answer, which is I don't consider it a Rage Against the Machine song. I wrote it as a funk song. That's it's to me it's. Hey baby, won't you gotta do.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so. But he had such energy, and um, he worked as a pipe fitter in New York City. Um, building skyscrapers.
Hmm.
Um, just a great guy, and just got along perfectly. He was fun to work with. He was. It made it nice because there was no prima donna stuff happening, so he would sort of follow my vision about where we're going, but within that he would bring all of himself to the table, which is a producer's dream in that case.
Wow. Now, how did he end up coming back?
Motorhead was remarkable, really. I mean, this huge band, and they, for the most part, played the songs exactly like the demo I gave them. I was fully expecting that they'd just completely change it. But they really brought them to life. It was great. And they were, and I'd heard all the stories about Lemmy being a crazy man and, huge alcohol problems, and couldn't have been more of a gentleman to me.
Wow.
I mean, just, and the other guys, just everybody couldn't have been kinder. Got along great, very professional, came in, did the work, cut the tracks, sounded great. I mean, zero complaints there.
Wow. And so many years later, after D-Generation X had come and gone, probably 2011, 2013, Chris Warren would be brought back to do Jack Swagger's theme song. Now, how did that come about where you brought him back after all those years?
He had wanted to do more stuff, and I had explained as best I could that he has such a unique voice that it's sort of gimmick infringement, we used to call it, where it's tough because you hear him, and for this guy, and you're thinking about DX.
Right.
Or you're thinking about Hunter with My Time, or even the switch to doing Hunter's music was a little uncomfortable.
Mm.
But he was part of DX, so
right.
I still don't think, by the way, that I think still Hunter, Paul wants to maintain and think that Motorhead wrote those songs.
Really?
I don't think he's a very big fan.
Uh,
He's, I think he, when he was coming into sort of out of wrestling into more of a behind the scenes role,
sure.
um, he clearly wanted his own guys, and he perceived me as Vince's guy. So
Okay.
I think that's why I'm not being asked to write themes anymore.
Do you see yourself writing themes within the wrestling world in the future? Do you ever see yourself doing it again somewhere else, or?
I'd be happy to do it, but you have to be asked. And
Right.
I think that the I think the chances that Paul's going to ask are close to zero. Um, that uh, that the WWE music group is going to call me up, I think is zero, and that the guy who's currently doing the themes for WWE, I think is zero.
Mm.
Why would you invite me in or invite somebody else in? So
Right. Last week's episode, we had Steve Taylor on, who obviously
oh,
was
how's Steve
big
doing?
big part of the WWF for a long time,
Years and years and years.
and
How's he
and
doing?
he's doing great. He's doing great. He's a big fan of skiing, so he and his wife are always doing something ski related, and he's just enjoying retirement.
He's not doing any photos anymore for anybody.
No, no, he's not. No,
Yeah,
he went on to work for Madison Square Garden for 13 years after leaving the WWF in 2005.
yeah.
And then after that, he pretty much retired. So he always has his trusty camera with him on his vacations. Still takes amazing photos, and he
He's
actually brought you up on the last episode and said how if anybody behind the scenes deserves Hall of Fame, it's certainly you, and I couldn't agree more.
oh, he was he not was is was a really talented guy, and to do that job, um, I got to do my job under Vince McMahon, but I got to hide alone in my studio. And Steve was always trying to do his job with Vince right there. And uh, Vince was not one to hold back on if he had an opinion about how you should be doing your job. So the fact that he survived all those years and did the quality of work he did is remarkable to me.
Yeah, another tenured employee
It's
like yourself.
a tough thing. Yeah, there were David Sahadi was really talented. No, sorry guys. I don't mean to sound like you're dead. The was thing. David Sahadi is a really talented guy. Funny story about um, what I was saying earlier about I'm not clairvoyant, but I feel like I can pick up on people's feelings and who they are and kind of what might be happening. And not that long after David and I had done, I've forgotten what the first couple of projects, they were just small things, I think. Um, but I like that he really was trying to do different stuff. He was not just coming in and fitting the model and let's keep doing the same promos again and again. He was trying to do different stuff. I didn't love every one of them, but I loved most of them. And I went out to dinner with him and with Chris Chambers one night. And Chris went to the bathroom, and very impromptu, I turned to David and I said, I think you and I are going to do some really special stuff together.
Oh.
And he goes, oh, kind of nods his head. Yeah, that's cool. Then years later, he told me, God, I thought you were gay and you were hitting on me. It's like, no, Dave, no. Sorry about that. No.
Yeah.
And the other shout out I'll give is to Chris Chambers, who, if anyone had a brain, they should have just thrown out the other writers and let Chris write the show.
Hmm.
He would come up with literally 20 storylines that are better than anything that's happened in the last 5 years in, I don't know, 2 hours. That would be liberal,
Yeah.
probably an hour. He really has just a great mind for story, and it was rarely used because it would be stepping on toes, either Vince's toes or the writer's toes or uh, Paul's toes, or it's just horrible.
It's too bad you don't get to see everybody's full potential because of that, you know?
Absolutely, and you're dynamically, if you're trying to run a business and grow it, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Why would you do that?
Right.
Here's a person who can solve your problem. In fact, a problem that you're complaining about, like the storylines are not good. It's like, here's your solution.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then David, I guess, burned out at the end with just people pissing him off and telling him what to do and telling him what he couldn't do. And so I don't
About
know. I
two,
haven't seen these guys in years and years and years, but
yeah, about 2 months ago, we had David on the show as well, and he spoke very highly of you as well. So,
oh, that's nice. Well,
yeah,
if you speak to him, tell him hello.
I will.
How's he?
Absolutely. He is still, within the industry. I know that he went from WWE to TNA a little bit, and then he is now working for Hulk Hogan's that new wrestling organization that he has. I forgot the name. I'm sorry. Um, but it's like collegiate wrestling, or but they go to arenas and have different competitions and that sort of thing. So Eric Bischoff is involved in that, and David Sahadi's involved in that as well.
But it's a pro wrestling thing, or it's like true
True
like
wrestling.
college, intercollege, not intercollege, but serious contest with the rules and
Absolutely no pro wrestling involved.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what they're doing now, and it seems to be doing well. They're going in different arenas, and the crowds seem to be getting bigger. So, unfortunately, Hulk had passed away right before it started. They were working on it for a couple years prior to that, and really putting everything into the basket, and then he passed away. But they seem to be doing a good job with it. So,
And you know no more about this than me, but I'm just curious. Is the rumor still out there that The Rock wants to buy WWE?
I heard that. I don't know if it's true or not. Nothing's come out with him personally saying anything, but it's definitely been out there. It's been buzzing around. So I don't know. I don't know if that's true. He's heavily involved. Obviously, he's on the board. He's got a lot of influence, of course. But be interesting to see if that would actually work.
I, you know, I, I don't lock anything in as a possibility. It's WWE, and uh, if there was a story out tomorrow that um, Vince is the new chairman of the board of WWE, wouldn't surprise me in the very least.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me if it turns out that this entire thing of selling it, uh, buying what's the fighting thing, Ultimate Fighting or whatever,
UFC. Yeah.
yeah, UFC. Um, if it was all just a classic uh, WWE storyline,
Right.
basically behind the scenes,
Yeah.
just a business version of it. So who knows? I don't know. Seems to be hell bent on causing himself as much difficulty as possible these
Oh,
days.
I know. How was your relationship with Vince over the years while you were there with the company?
Great. Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I mean, he's a tough guy. But in his own way, he's a brilliant guy. But he's just carrying around a lot of demons, would be my way of putting it. And he's never been able to shake them.
Right.
And they get the best of him sometimes. So, and that's too bad. And I hate that part. But um, he gave me incredible creative latitude, which was a gift, and I take as a huge compliment that he sort of trusted me with his product. And it's more, it's for him, it's really his product. Um, he's a very emotional guy. There's just the classic super tough guy on the exterior. Uh, and boy, he's very emotional
Yeah.
about stuff. Um, and that's good and bad. I mean, it makes him great at understanding that people want to feel something, that they're not just looking for spectacle, they want to feel something.
Right.
Um, but then for all people who are very strong in the feeling category, uh, it can turn the other way and get you in trouble. So
Yeah. Now, being there early on, 1985, like you said, you're one of the first employees. There's only a handful, under 10. Do you have any memories of the very first employee, Howard Finkel, working with him at all throughout the years?
sure, it was like uh, he was just the friendliest guy. I mean, he was just always friendly to everybody.
Yeah.
Um, it was sort of heartbreaking when he got let go, because it was so much that guy's life, that it's just one of those things where you go, "Oh my God, what is this guy going to do?"
Right.
Um, because I, he was a character and he was good at what he did, but he was exactly what he seemed to be. He was, a kind of a nerdy uh, guy in the midst of all these big guys, and he's out there announcing, um, but he did a great job, and he just was always 100% friendly and welcoming, and I think that was his gimmick. And I'm sure he didn't love everybody, but um, he did a great job at making everyone feel good.
Yeah.
So I give him that. I couldn't do it.
Right. And another theme related question for you, the Ugandan giant Kamala. A very unique instance here, and I don't know if you remember, but technically it's three real songs kind of overlapping each other. Moyanga by the National Percussion Group of Kenya, and then also Takachinja by the same group, and Sunny Earth by the Vangelis. And then you put them all together, and you get the Ugandan giant Kamala. That's never really happened, I don't think, with any other theme song. Do you know the story to that?
I do not know anything about that whatsoever. I
Hmm.
don't know any of those groups.
Wow.
I don't. Are, do you know that that's accurate, or did?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you look them up online on YouTube, if you listen to them separately, you'll say, "Oh, wow, yeah, that's part of Kamala's song." And what they did is they put the three together and came up with Kamala.
That boy, WWE, that sounds very suspicious. Like they wanted to not be recognized as they were ripping some music off. So they took a bunch and mixed it all together so that no one is like, that's a little bit like that song. Oh, I guess not. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah, that could be the reason. Absolutely. But very unique. You never really saw that again, so I was just curious about that. And um, you know,
no, I don't. It wasn't part of that one. I never even heard that. I mean, it's
yeah,
once again, you know better than me.
yeah. And you're
It
not a
gets
wrestling fan.
weird when I get it from a fan. Is like um, when we put out the CDs, I'd get fan mail saying, you know, love the new CD, but I can't believe you put out that version of that guy's theme, because in that whole center section where you put that low level guitar in there, I love that, and then you put the version where you took that out, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about with some low line guitar part in the middle of the song? There
Yeah,
is no guitar part in the middle of the song. And sure enough, I go back and listen to it. There's a guitar part in the middle of the song that I've
yeah.
completely forgotten about.
Us theme people, we take it seriously.
I
There's another one with the Ministry of Darkness, It made it to one of the albums, probably Volume 4, Volume 5, but it wasn't the Ministry of Darkness that was being used on television. It was just off by a little bit. Maybe it was a prior version, but everybody kind of was in an uproar over that little change.
I, I, things would change so frequently and so rapidly. It was really hard to keep track, or it was hard for me to keep track.
Yeah.
But I'm not good at the clerical stuff,
Right.
really. Well,
Another-
but there's not time. In my defense, there wasn't time for the clerical stuff. There wasn't time to okay, let's enter this version into the database. Exactly. This is version 20998 with tambourine.
Right.
It's like I'd finish one thing. It's like boom, it's on to the next thing right then.
Now, do you have a database of all of your work as far as theme songs go?
Loosely, yeah. I have lists around, but do I have one definitive database? No, I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
And before leaving the company, is when Uncaged came out, right? That series of your music.
I think for a while, not like in the last 2 weeks, but I think they'd been doing that for. That's when the WWE Music Group was taking over all music control.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was, that was led by Neil Lowy, who wanted to control all that stuff. So
some of the theme songs have kind of gone missing. There are a few that are infamously WWE does not have their files. I actually spoke to somebody who was working on the Uncaged series at that time years ago, and they searched for it high and low and they couldn't get it. Zeus, The Powers of Pain, and Sid Justice, for some reason, they don't exist. So a lot of fans are specifically looking for those themes, and they're just.
I will take a look.
Yeah, they've never been released officially.
Zeus,
Sid Justice, and The Powers of Pain.
Powers of Pain.
They didn't have anything at Titan with that, so it's interesting.
I will check my extensive files and see if I have anything, and let you know.
That would be interesting. And then there are superstars over the years that didn't have theme songs. Do you know what the rhyme or reason was? The Berserker, Nails, Damien Demento, they would just come out to nothing. And I was always curious why only certain superstars would have that.
I have no idea. That would be a Vince call.
Gotcha.
Maybe I would speculate that he wanted them to just come out dry, as to say that they're not a planned, created entity, like they're an absolute wild card that lives in a cave backstage, and they come out whenever they want to come out.
That makes sense.
I think that probably is not a great plan, because to me, it always looks like someone screwed up in the booth, But
Right.
I said press play. How hard can that be?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about the office that you worked at, or the studio that you worked out of early on. It wasn't much of a studio when you first got there, but why don't you kind of walk us through the evolution of your studio over the years? And now, obviously, you have a state-of-the-art studio in your home, but in the early days of WWF, all the way to when you left there.
Well, let me see, where was I first? The first one was just in the apartment I rented, just piled in a corner.
Yeah.
And then I managed to get this cement room It was a 100 rectangular cement room beneath a church, uh, the church I went to at the time, and they let me use the room.
Oh.
And I mean, where um, I don't know what it was ever intended for. It was like a bunker,
Hmm.
and it was. I could literally, when they would have mass upstairs, I could hear people's feet shuffling on the marble upstairs, um, and then I rented another room in an old schoolhouse where I was for a while, um, and then and then finally, I got a space in the production place at WWE at the time.
Hmm.
And at first, it was just sort of a space, and then they built me a studio, and it was not a not like the Hit Factory type scenario. It was just a designated corner, and rather than just squared out walls, it was the walls were had a rhyme or reason as to why they were there, to make room for the speakers or to whatever. Um, and then later, they built for me, a real world class studio. Russ Berger, the studio designer, came in, and the kind where literally the rooms are built on floating cement pads so that even the vibrations of music don't go through the cement and up. It's hard to believe, but yes,
Wow.
you'll hear the music come through a cement floor, no matter how soundproof you make the wall.
Hmm.
Um, and that was, I mean, and I had the greatest equipment imaginable, and that was great. But it it was sort of necessary because the amount of product we were turning out in those years was, you just, and all the video guys and video editing, they were just constantly updating it to the newer digital formats, and so that guys could turn out stuff really well, or really quickly. Not always really well, but certainly quickly.
And
And now,
millions,
and then I built this place here.
which is a beautiful studio. I've
Yeah.
seen pictures of it, and it's just it's phenomenal. And how often do you find yourself in there, just kind of trying to create music, or just playing, or relaxing?
Every day of my life, I'm here.
That's
Yeah.
great to hear.
Yeah.
So you haven't lost it. You're continuing on with it. I love
I,
it.
I have, yeah, for all those guys. I mean, I still come up with theme ideas all the time. Just be toying around on the guitar, and it's like, that's a really good theme idea.
Is that frustrating because you're used to being able to bring that to life, and now you're like, man, where do I put this idea?
Yeah, it's frustrating. Um, I guess it's mainly frustrating to me for two reasons. One is, um, without being cocky about it, I'm fairly confident that I've proved that I can do this. And the biggest player, WWE, has really crappy music. So it tells me that there's just petty crap in the way here. Why they wouldn't just say, like, someone wouldn't have thought occasionally, like, hey, for the hell of it, you want to write a theme for this new guy we got coming in? Um, and the biggest thing is, I just feel so sorry for the wrestlers. It's like, because um, I occasionally get contacted by a wrestler, but never from WWE, and I think that's because they've been told not to. And but I've been contacted by enough where I know that the stories I hear, both for WWE and AEW. Is that, have
Yeah.
I got that
Yep.
right? Um, and what's the other? I did a theme for for a guy from one of the other organizations.
TNA maybe.
Not TNA, Power something. Um,
Hmm.
um, I don't know. But that these guys lobby for music and they won't let him do it.
Man.
Is, you know, there. I mean, guys have told me they tell the powers to be, "I'll find someone, I'll pay for it. You know, I no responsibility on your part.
Right.
Um, can I do it? No. This is your music.
Ugh,
Boom."
it's a travesty. Really is.
Well, I don't know if it's a travesty, but it's certainly weird. You know, it's. I always wonder when decisions like that are being made. Do the people at the real top know that those decisions are being made?
True.
Um, and of course, that's always a problem when corporate structures start to get big because um, in that case, it's like top entertainment or something that owns WWE and UFC.
Oh, TKO. Yeah.
TKO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is so now you're talking about each organization has its own corporate structure, and now there's a corporate structure above that. So by the time you're getting to the people who um, might have a larger vision to say, like, our music sucks. Why is that?
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. My guess is they both just become businesses that they're making money, so nobody's going to rock the boat.
Sure. Yeah. Happens in a lot of cases, unfortunately. That's just
Yeah.
how it goes.
Did you ever work for any of these companies? Were you ever actually more directly?
No, I was a ring announcer, but in independent wrestling. So I did that for 10 years. I've been in the business for about 30 years. I run fan fests and different things like that, but never with any of the major companies.
Yeah. And did you want to?
I would have loved to. I actually was going to be getting a tryout for ring announcing back in 2003 or four, and Dr. Tom Pritchard was the scout for one of the promotions that I worked for. So
Brother
he
love.
he liked how I was doing, and we had the tryout scheduled. And unfortunately, he was let go at that time because he was let go a few times over the years. So
Mm-hmm.
once he was let go, that was the end of my tryout, and it ended up being another ring announcer that took it on, and did an awesome job, and they were there
You
for
never
10.
even got the tryout.
I never even got to try out now, so.
Yeah.
But that's fine. Everything happens for a reason. There's so much that I've been able to experience on other levels that I wouldn't have been able to do if I was with WWE. So I don't look at it in a negative light, and it's all positive at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But
But it sounds like this podcast you're doing is working out. You get a lot of interesting people, and
this has been great. This is a passion for me. I've always had a passion for interviewing. So I go to the Comic Cons, I interview. I'm there as press, and I'll interview different celebrities and that sort of thing. And I've always enjoyed doing that, especially long form interviews. I really enjoy it. I just love telling people's stories, helping assist them in telling the stories and getting them out there. And when I'm not conducting interviews, I'm watching interviews. I'm watching everybody's podcast because I want to just take in as much as possible, and I love it. And it's one of those things. Everybody, oh, you got to do a podcast. You got to do a podcast, and that was going on for 15, 20 years. And finally, I said, you know what? Let me do it. Give it a try. And I've been doing it for about 8 months now. We've already hit about 170 episodes,
wow.
and yeah, it's been a real thrill. So not sure where it's going to go, where it'll take me. But even if it doesn't take me anywhere and I continue to do it on the level that I'm doing it on, it's a passion and I love doing it. So
How broad is the in terms of genre? Is it all wrestling, or is it or do you go out into just music, or you said Comic Con? So
Yeah, I mean it's wrestling heavy, obviously, because of that's where a lot of my contacts lie.
mhm.
But I made sure not to put wrestling in the title, so the All Access Entertainment Podcast. So we've got music, we've got artists, we've got cosplayers, we have celebrities. We had a sci-fi week, and I interviewed 21 Star Wars actors, and so there's something for everybody. So it's good. I think if you just there's enough wrestling podcasts out there. We don't need
Yes,
another wrestling podcast. So I'm
yeah,
trying to give something
I
for
get
everybody.
invited to a lot of them, and I don't want to be rude. I'm flattered that anyone would ask, but um, at the same time, I steer away from the ones that I know are really going to be straight down the line wrestling, and I just don't. I really my time was spent doing music. I really wasn't involved in the wrestling business.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so I feel, and particularly for the people who really want behind the scenes stories, is like I've got no behind the scenes stories.
right.
I wasn't out carousing with Steve Austin at a bar at 3 a.m. in the morning in Alabama or something.
Sure.
I just don't have any stories like that.
Yeah.
Um, so that's just going to be a disappointment for everybody. And what you said before we started the interview about um, the people who want dirt, who want you to trash people and to say that, oh, Vince McMahon was just a horrible guy and he beat me every day, and it's I what's the upside to that?
That's the other thing. There are so many podcasts out that are solely there to gossip or to start rumors, and that's the complete opposite of what I am. So I have no interest in doing that. And throughout my interviews, I've been able to tell the story without having to talk about all the, I'm not a negative person. I'm a positive person, positive outlook on
Yeah,
things. Obviously, we all have things happen to us that are, in a negative light, but you got to stay positive and just tell the story and talk
and you
about
can
all the
tell
good
the
things.
story without trashing people completely.
Right. Exactly.
There are obviously people in this whole storyline that I really don't like.
Yeah.
But I just don't see any advantage to making that known to the world.
Right. Now you said you've been in your studio 99% of the time throughout your wrestling portion of the career. Was there a lot of opportunities though, or at least some opportunities for you to get out there to the arenas and see your work in person with the fan reaction?
Yeah, a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
Um, it's a little. Um, it's not off. Yes, part of it is really off-putting. Part of it is incredibly flattering and exciting. It's like first of all, you're in a gigantic arena that is filled with people. Your music is coming out of enormous speakers playing incredibly loudly, and everyone's completely into it. So how can you not be taken away with that? The other thing is, the other side is, it makes me incredibly uncomfortable because I guess more than anything, it's just not the way I was raised. I mean, I come from a family in Pocahontas, Arkansas, where it's, you just don't talk about yourself. You just don't do that. And you certainly, if you're going to talk about yourself, you don't go, oh, I got a lot of awards. Damn, you know, people love my music. You know, I mean, you get beaten for that. Um, so, so I was happiest being alone in my studio.
Hmm.
It was where I wanted to be creatively. It's where I'm most comfortable. It's what I want to be doing with my life, and it's good in a corporate scenario to keep your head low, do
Yeah.
your work, keep your head low, don't look for trouble.
And that's some great advice right there. But what would you say is the best piece of advice that you've received within the music industry?
Don't go into it. I don't know. Best piece of musical advice. That's a very interesting question. That really has put me on my heels because it makes me realize that I came up through the music industry through a very different path than what's normal. And so I've never really had a mentor or something like that, who showed me mic placement, and or told me, when you're dealing with singers, you got to understand them psychologically and do this. And so it really was trial and error, but that's pretty much who I am. I'm kind of a self-sufficient, do-it-yourself thing.
Yeah.
Mainly because I think I'm uncomfortable around people. So,
And a two-parter for you within the industry, not necessarily the wrestling aspect of it, but music as a whole. What would you say has been your personal greatest challenge? And then on the flip side of that, the most rewarding for you?
the greatest challenge is still my greatest challenge. Is I have zero gifts for any sort of PR. Like even my doing this, it's just a lot of thought goes into it. It's like, oh, well, you shouldn't really do that. I mean, what are you going to say that's interesting? And and really the main reason I did this is because I know Vince Russo. He's always been very kind to me, and I respect that he takes what he does dead seriously. And he recommended you. It's like, hey, this is a good guy. You should do this. And it's like, okay, I'll do this. And but in terms of, it's why I've never done anything like contact WWE and say, like, can I write some themes for you? I mean, I've got, I don't know, on my phone and tape machine, I probably have 500 theme ideas.
Wow.
It just that, and I don't send out tapes to people. I don't go to film conventions and meet filmmakers and, here's my resume and this is how I feel about film music and how important it is. I just no good at selling myself. So that's always been and continues to be my biggest challenge. I'll throw in a second biggest challenge, because this might resonate for some people out there trying to break in, is finish things. I've been cursed and blessed, largely blessed, with I could pick up a guitar right now, and if I could get you out of my head, but you keep the camera on, I could come up with at least 5 to 10 reasonably good theme ideas in the next 10 minutes. The curse is I'm working on one thing, and while I'm noodling around on the piano part for that one thing,
Yeah.
I get 2 other ideas, and now I want to veer off, and it's like, oh, I should just jot that down a little bit. Next thing I know, 4 hours have gone by, and I've lost track of the thing I'm trying to finish. So I have a real, completion problem where I can't. It's a real challenge to stay focused on stuff long enough to finish them, and that really wasn't a problem. And in that sense, WWE was a blessing, because the gun was always out. Is like there's no vagueness here. Is we're sending this theme out at 6 o'clock on the satellite.
Right.
Like, that's the deadline. And there were times when, it was pressing the button at 5:59 with whatever I had. Well, a lot of times like that, but it caused me to focus, but when you have to do those things all by yourself, um, I can record all the instruments myself. I can write it all myself. I can do a lot by myself, but there are some things where I just fall apart and I fail. You can't do everything yourself, which is why um, Vince had a thing he loved to say, which was good advice, but it was pointed mainly at wrestlers in promos and stuff in his world, but also to working with a singer or something, is everybody needs to be produced. No one can sell. He always argued nobody can self-produce, because you're just, for whatever reason, good or bad, you're too close to it. You need someone outside of yourself, to say, all right, Jim, of these 10 ideas you just played me, these two stand out. Let's concentrate on those. Let's do one tomorrow, and we'll do the next one on Saturday.
Yeah.
So if you have someone who you trust who's standing over you, why were the Beatles so great? Because George Martin was standing over them all the time, keeping them on the rails. I mean, without it, they would have been all over the place.
Right. Now, if you had to put a Mount Rushmore together of maybe your top 4 favorite entrance themes that you've created over the years.
Oh, wow. Oh God, that's so hard.
I know they're all your babies in different ways.
Well, it's also, there's just so many. I mean, there are literally, thousands of pieces of music, and it's certainly way into the hundreds of themes. So,
or if you're going into a meeting and they're saying, Jim, give us your 4 best.
Well, sorry, just to delay and as much as possible. It also depends on the criteria, because it's 4 most popular or my 4 favorites.
I would say in this instance, your 4 favorites.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That makes it a little easier. Undertaker, With My Baby Tonight. I'm sorry, with only 2 left.
2 left. Yeah.
It's just, there are too many choices. I sound so crappy to say, but there are too many choices. What's coming to me now is, I wrote this song I really liked that I think got used one time. It was written for Bret Hart. It was called "You Start the Fire."
Great song. That was for his music video.
Yeah. See, how do you know this stuff? How do you remember all this stuff?
Well, it was together. It was "You Start the Fire."
And then it's like it's gone. I have no idea what the hell happened with that.
"Tell Me a Lie" was another great one.
Oh my God, "Tell Me a Lie." Yeah. "Deadly Game." I really like that song.
Survivor
and that
Series.
didn't even really get used, but one time.
Yeah. Yep.
It's, another thing. Okay, I'll do my best PR right now. I could really help an up and coming country band really up their visibility if they're really good. I mean, they'd have to, it always, no matter what PR thing happens or lucky, fortuitous thing happens, you have to, at the end of the day, you have to be a good band or a good performer, a good singer, a good athlete, whatever it is. You have to take advantage of that opportunity. But a guaranteed opportunity for a up and coming country band, do your version of "With My Baby Tonight," because the entire wrestling community will be on your website listening to that song, or on your label's website, or on Spotify or something.
Yeah.
And then follow it up with one of your own songs. But that's never been covered by anybody. That's a great song. It's a good song. I mean, and it would just be such an easy way to get incredibly high visibility of a lot of people.
And you mentioned the greatest challenge. The other side of that, the flip side, most rewarding. What's that been for you?
The reward is just the opportunity to write all this music in all these different genres. I mean, that was such a great experience to, be writing traditional rock and roll song, and then have to come up with something like "Tell Me a Lie," and then you're doing a Punjabi Indian pop song, and then you're doing a Japanese kodo tune. It's a dream thing for me, because I've never been a pigeonhole guy. I'm not a rock guy. And I'm not a classical guy. I'm like an everything guy. But interestingly, in the music business, that works against you, because people want to be able to know who you are, in a simple way, so that they can say, you go to Steven Spielberg, or Steven Spielberg comes to you and says, like, I need someone to I'm doing a horror movie, and I need someone who's the best at horror scores. Oh, well, call Jim Johnston. He's the horror score guy. I mean, it's like he writes horror scores in his sleep.
Yeah.
That's what is really helpful in the music industry. And the almost the worst thing is, you should call Jim Johnston. I'm sure he's done horror stuff.
Right. Because then you're thrown into something, and you're okay.
Yeah, it's like, oh well, geez, that sounds very iffy to me.
Right.
So it's, but God, there's so many things that have been rewarding. People I've met along the way. Working with some really talented singers. And one of the amazements there, unfortunately, in the negative column, it is amazing how difficult it is to find good singers. I mean, singers who, you can find people with good voices, but good singers to me are someone who knows how to tell the story. It's like Chris Warren. He told you the story. It's a crappy singer, horrible, but he knows how to tell a story.
Yeah.
You listen to the music where he was the singer. You're not really thinking about Chris Warren. You're thinking about the story. You're thinking about D-Generation X. The great singer, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles. You hear the story. Yes, they have beautiful voices, and you're aware it's Ray Charles. But wow, I mean, what I tell singers, and 2% of them get it, is singing is not singing, it's acting. You are every song, and particularly themes, is a little 3-minute film. And you're the star of the show. You are the Brad Pitt of the film. And you have to be that main character. You have to totally give up on being Brad Pitt for right now. You have to be that guy.
Yeah.
And you have not only be that guy, you have to sell that guy to me if this film is going to be good. And I'm going to walk out and say, like, wow, that was I'm crying my eyes out. That was a great film. Most people can't do that. Very, very few people can do it. And maybe it gets back to what we were speaking about earlier, where you have to be produced. a lot of people aren't produced along the way where they have people saying, it's like, tell me the story.
Yeah.
Stop singing. Try to stop. I've said this so many times in sessions. You're trying to sing nice. You're trying to sing
Right.
pretty. It's like, I don't want you to sing nice or pretty. I'll fix that crap up later.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me the story. I want you to disappear. Tell me the story. Look at the lyrics. Take 5 minutes, look at the lyrics. There has to be something in your life that happened that's in the ballpark of this story, be it good or bad. So get there, go back there and feel that. And now tell me your version of this. And it's, oh my God, it's numbing. Joseph, it's numbing trying to get people. And when it's most numbing is when someone has a great voice.
Right.
And if you could just break that lock they have on having a great voice, it's like a curse they've been living with. Oh, you have such a great voice. And no one's ever saying, like, but and how many times have you heard people say, oh God, I heard the singer last night. What a great voice. It's impossible to believe she's not a star.
Yeah.
Well, the reason she's not a star is she's not telling stories. She's not being the person in the 3-minute film. Go through every singer you like. I guarantee you it will be because they tell you the story.
And if you're always being,
of course, like Bob Dylan type people who don't really have a great voice, but you're hanging on every word.
right. And if you're always being told that you have a great voice, you may also stop trying to improve yourself because you think, oh,
Absolutely.
I have a great
This
voice.
is working.
Yeah.
I've nailed it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
a little, very minor detail, and me being obsessed with entrance music, I'm probably the only one that
Go
even
ahead.
saw this. With My Baby Tonight, you said that's, number 2 on your Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
So they changed the backup women, the singers, for that song. Originally it was the blondes, then it went to the brunettes, and I always thought the original version was better as far as the backup singers go. And I was just wondering if you remember that change being made.
I'm not sure that change was made. It was the same 3 friends of mine that,
Oh,
because
really?
I had written this song long before. It had nothing to do with WWE. It was just a song I wrote about my wife. And it was a childhood friend and 2 of her
wow.
girlfriends who did the backup parts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
I mean, it was just mixed differently.
Maybe.
So maybe
it seemed
how
like they were completely different from
maybe the balance between the 3 of them. I changed it in the mix.
Sure.
But yeah, that was never I only did the remix to get Road Dogg's vocal in there.
Okay.
And he had a great, sorry, what is this past tense thing? He has a great voice.
He really
did
does.
A great job with that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he didn't make a go at, go to Nashville, sing.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, he is well known enough that he would have kind of a leg up. Probably a label would be happy to try to promote him.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now, I also had one final fan question for you. Basically, the transition of getting out of that poppy music from the 80s, all the 80s music themes, into the new generation, and then from the new generation to the Attitude Era. Was it difficult to kind of go from time period to time period for you, or?
No, I loved it.
Yeah.
It's like, bring it on. Yeah. You want to change everything? Great.
I know people kind of look at the new generation as, it was the company wasn't making as much money, so it wasn't not as many eyes on it. But some of those themes that you made.
You are an expert at this stuff, and when I say I'm pathetic at knowing all this stuff, I'm pathetic at knowing all this stuff. When you say new generation, like, give me an era. What does that mean?
So they had these commercials advertising the new generation, and it was 94 until probably about 96, right before the Attitude started in
Can you give me some
97.
examples of the
Yeah.
themes
Oh yeah.
that
So
were?
new generation is Waylon Mercy, T.L. Hopper, The Goon, Salvatore Sincere. All of
Oh,
those
sort
gimmicky
of
guys.
quirky, gimmicky drama
Yeah.
thing.
But I always enjoyed those themes where other people might look at that, like, oh, that was a rough time. But T.L.
I,
Hopper, you had the
I
toilet
see it all
flushing.
as film scoring. So it's one film score is an orchestra, the next film score is a solo oboe,
Yeah.
and the next one's an acoustic guitar.
And I've had
So
to,
I love the more jumping around, the better for me.
absolutely, yeah. I've had to bring that kind of to light. Other theme experts, they're like, oh man, T.L. Hopper, it was just the toilet flushing. Well, that's not true. If you listen closely, there's like that evil music in the background of the
I
toilet
just couldn't
flushing.
do it. Vince wanted toilet flushes, and that was just about the breaking point for me, because I was always arguing. It's like, why do heels have to get like no music or crappy music? Why is that? Is the in in movie world, uh, it's often the bad guy who has the best sort of motif in the movie score.
Right.
And it's certainly true that in stories and in films, which are stories, of course, how good the film and story is largely dictated by how good the bad guy is.
Yeah.
If it's Silence of the Lambs, like Hannibal Lecter, oh my God, I mean, a seriously bad guy, dangerous guy. I mean, he'll eat you if you cross him.
Right.
So that makes Jodie Foster's part, I think. I mean, sorry, Jodie, not easier, but to be able to. Everything's a dance. All of life is a dance. Entrance themes are a dance. Is I could write a great entrance theme, and sometimes it didn't work because the wrestler can't dance to it. You know, Austin is a great dancer. That theme hits, he dances, he's lockstep with that theme. He's he's coming down, he's locked in with that music like it's being generated out of his soul. The two have to dance. All the actors and the film score, it has to dance together.
Hmm.
And if there's a disconnect, it it's not going to happen. And a lot of the guys and girls just didn't get that aspect of it. They just it was music that played while they walked to the ring, and it's like, no, this is your film score. This is this is your character. This is Darth Vader coming onto the scene, and Darth's music comes with him every time, and there has to be a feeling of instant happiness or instant dread or instant anticipation or uneasiness, whatever the feeling is. That's what has to happen.
Right. And you're a humble man from Arkansas, but fast forward many years from now, looking back at your career as a whole, what would you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered?
Uh, a good guy, diverse, um, talented, uh, contributed, hard worker.
Well, you're a genius in the industry. I want to thank you for all of your contributions, both inside and outside of wrestling, and all that you've done. I mean, you've done a phenomenal job and created memories for so many people. I mean, you've sold, we had over 7 million CDs alone, and then of course the iTunes, millions of downloads. So the whole world has been able to experience just little
Yeah,
pieces of your magic. So I thank you for that.
that's very kind of you to say. And thanks for having me on. Thanks for spending the time. I'm
Oh, it's
flattered by the invitation.
It's been my pleasure. For Jim Johnston, I'm Joseph Bruen. This has been the All Access Entertainment Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave your comments. Love to hear what your favorite entrance music is and what you thought of this interview. And we will see all of you fans next time. And Jim, would you mind playing us out with something? Anything of your choice?
Oh my God. Sorry, you got something you want to hear? I might not remember how to play it, but
anything at all. Your choice. Whatever you'd like to play us out on.
Well, okay. So one you mentioned, a little sappy, but a thing. So that's a little goodbye to Shawn Michaels.
Tell me a lie. Appreciate that. Excellent.
That was a good angle.
Yeah, it really was.
Because there were people who were just broken-hearted that he was sort of being driven out or something. And
yeah, it's when Shawn lost his smile.
Yeah. But it's moments like that where I would realize that this works. People really become part of it. Right. I mean that they believe it in a way that's a step even more than believing that Star Trek is kind of real in a way.
Yeah.
It's like oh no, Shawn, this is horrible. And he sold it so well, and that man was good at what he did.
One of the best to do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, thank you so much. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Take care of yourself.
You too.